What is Gucci, my brothers and sisters? It's your boy, Symmetry, aka Chase, aka Clarence, aka Callaway, aka I got called away to chase some green. Right here, bro. And that's what we're talking about today. Not necessarily chasing green, but green. And how you sort of inevitably chase things you desire. And a lot of people desire green, my guy. What is green? We're obviously talking about what is in my hair right now. So, as far as this plant, we're gonna call it Captain Kush. We can call it creative cannabis. Whatever other C uh, names you've got for weed, I definitely want to hear them. Regardless, this is our whole video for today. Finally, this is like Cosmic Conversations episode 12. It's perfect. Gematria of 3, weed. It's music, baby. Weed will get you into that flow. I love weed. That being said, it will sabotage your ass really fucking fast and make you really fucking lazy if you don't actually know who you are, you don't actually know what you're doing, and you don't actually know why you're using it, bro. This is very important. These tools that we have in this reality, and how your human body. I assume if you're watching this, you're in a human body. I don't know who you are, but you are in a human body, and your human body has certain genetic and DNA type structures, just like all of our bodies, all of our humans. We're all humans, so we can relate through these scientific laws and shit. Weed does something very awesome in the human body. And science gets into, you can see those studies about how there's like cannabinoid receptors in the brain. And really, science is just going to keep showing over the course of any type of studies into these plants how humans have literally evolved alongside weed and plants in general. Weed is a psychedelic. We're just talking about psychedelics and these compounds in plants that are basically designed to let you not get lost in being a human. And this is why the world that we're in right now, the white supremacist governments that have taken over almost every country on planet Earth, and everything that comes out of those governments, basically, all pushes the idea that these compounds that we have evolved alongside of are actually drugs. Drugs, just like the actual fake chemicals and bullshit that they create in labs, right? So now people, based on government conditioning, Hollywood conditioning, mental school programming, everything, you probably remember Dare if you're watching this. All of that working really hard. Like, that's a lot of effort by the government to condition people to believe that plants are dangerous. The plants that their body evolved alongside of is not only dangerous, but they are inherently unhealthy. There's no medicine in plants when they are unhealthy, and instead they need to go to humans. This is how, a narcissistic government, for example, would keep itself in power. Let's just say, hypothetically, you create fake problems so that you can give fake solutions that actually create more problems. That's what, like, the ultimate narcissist would do. Hypothetically, as a government, let's just say there might be a lot of money, there might be a lot of control in convincing people to hate nature and to distrust nature and to discredit nature. By making people hate, distrust, and discredit nature, they inherently discredit, distrust, and hate their bodies because they are natural. You are a human. So then that's where the government giving you that problem gives you fake solution. What's the fake solution? We know more about humans than you do. You may be in a body right now. You don't fucking know your body though, right? Like coronavirus time, baby. you're sick and you don't even know that you're sick. And you may know that you're not sick. But guess what? We have controlled the world so hard, it doesn't matter if you know that you're not sick. If we tell you you're sick, you're fucking sick. And we get to enslave you now under the basis of safety. So this is what we're talking about with mind control, okay? Govern mental. You got to govern the mental states of spirits to keep them trapped in a repeating legion of behavior in any kind of religion. And when we're talking about weed, there's a lot of negative stigma against weed based on the systems that were created to detach people from nature, to detach people from the actual systems that we already created that physically represent, biology for us to ascend. So shout out weed. That being said, yeah, there's hella negatives, bro. I mean, there's negatives to everything. What, you want me to tell you you should work out super hard every day? Bro, like, if you're a slave and you're working out too much, you will destroy your bones and, like, mess up how your body develops. Like, you can do too much of anything. Drink too much water, pretty sure you drown. Or at the very least, you dilute your cells and they can't function properly because you've desalinated yourself and just thrown your whole body out of equilibrium. Everything's going to be equilibrium. You're talking to symmetry. Speaking of symmetries, we're going to symmetries, and I'm going to get into more about weed instead of just talking about all that conspiracy government shit. Chase, why you gotta be a conspiracy theorist as if that's not actually a phrase that was created to stop people from thinking about how everything is a conspiracy. Now I just kind of to go off real quick. Conspiracy just as a word, right? Conspire. Like, you know what a con is, right? Like a convention or just anything that starts with con is going to involve multiple people coming together. Like always. A congregation, like it's always going to be multiple people coming together. Spire being, I'm pretty sure, Latin for breathe, and basically conspire is multiple people breathing. But to take it deeper in Latin, the whole point is that as you breathe, you build upon those breaths. So the point of a spire is like, yeah, you're breathing, but also you're erecting something. So conspire is people coming together to build something. Everything is a conspiracy, guys. Like, these are just words. So you really have to see when you start to throw the word conspiracy theory at things, logically, that's stupid as fuck. So instead, to dissect the emotional reason why you're saying that, that is going to be where the brainwashing is. The government easily has weaponized the word conspiracy when everything is a conspiracy. Government and conspiracy are basically the same exact thing. A government always has to conspire to be a government in the first place. When we're talking about conspiracy theory, we're talking about, yeah, an alternative timeline to what the government tells you is true. So, great. If you're someone that thinks that the truth is exactly what the government is told, then, fuck. You're the perfect sheep, and I have Kool-Aid I want to give you after I simmer these trees. Pretty sure you're not a sheep if you're still here, though. So, because we like to think for ourselves, and because we love nature, we love spirituality, we love how life is a perfect reflection of us because we love ourselves so much and we work so hard every day to love ourselves more. Weed can definitely help you do that. Like, high key, the whole point of weed and mushrooms and DMT and psilocybin, just like all these different plants, is to put you in different states of consciousness so you can learn about yourself. So fundamentally, what are we doing here in this realm, right? Like, what seems to be everyone's purpose as a human? Finding themselves. Like honestly, most movies, most media is about someone who is born into this reality trying to find their purpose. And it's always going to be spiritually their purpose, but of course the details get muddied out from there based on who's telling this story. It's almost always the same story, though, of you coming here to fulfill whatever spiritual duties and obligations you created a body here for. And the whole war here is that entities that have been here longer and have control over everything physically are able to hijack your body the moment you create it in this realm for your purpose. And they take it for their own purpose. They give you, right, their social security number, the receipt, they own you. You are either forced to go to jail or go to jail, right? You go to jail or you go to jail, aka you go to school or you go to jail. Like, that's literally how most shit is ran. It's like, oh yeah, you either let us keep you stuck in a building and we teach you and make you memorize what we want you to memorize, or we keep you trapped in the building and we forcibly make you learn what we want you to memorize. School is preparing the population for jail. They're literally set up the same exact way. So this whole idea is about enslavement. I'm getting very intense right now. I hope you feel like this is like very real. You as a spirit, when you created a body to come into this realm, you didn't do it for anyone else other than the spiritual purpose that you have. Your spiritual purpose is going to involve other people, or else you would not have materialized a body in such a fucking social world, right? Like, as humans, the whole point of what makes us human is that we have these hands and we have these mouths and we can use our logical words to communicate and connect and shit. So whatever your spiritual purpose is, if you are in a human body, it's going to involve other humans, right? You're very much here to learn how life is a reflection, life is a mirror, how everything is connected, and how love is the most powerful emotion. Not that everything comes from love. That's a whole nother video, bro. Whole nother video. But what you are here to literally learn, all these details are basically you learning about yourself, right? And it's pretty fucked up to think that you could come here to learn about yourself, but instead someone else hijacks you and forces you to learn about them, and then forces you to build their society. And then not only do they force you to build their society, you don't even have a place in their society. Shout out to my indigenous peoples who are labeled black and you don't actually know that you're from this land. And you were actually lied to think that you're from another land so that you didn't feel motivated to revolt when you finally learned English and learned what black meant, and then learned that black meant you're from Africa. Because literally, bro, you know what, bro? Hold up. I'm sorry. This was supposed to be about weed. I guess it is about weed. But literally, my indigenous peoples that like are watching this, who think that you are black, think that you're from Africa. Truly, what happened during slavery was indigenous peoples not speaking English, being enslaved, over time having their language beaten out of them, then having to learn English. And once they learned English, they learned that they were being called black. Now they have to learn what is black. Boom. Now they're learning that black is from Africa. Do you see how the identity got erased in like centuries? Right? Like centuries of slavery just totally decimated everything with these mental gymnastics of lying. That's what these entities are all about, manipulating in every way, shape, and form what they can to do what they want. This is what toxic masculinity is about, basically, where it's the idea that you have the ultimate right to control everything just because you feel so like it's the move in yourself, basically. Like you are so okay with molding the environment to your image that you have no empathy for how it's done. Not only do you have no empathy, you have the opposite of no empathy, where it's like you purposefully do not want to connect with anything that's outside of yourself, so you need to force the world into your image, aka whitewash that shit. So like when they make, movies about me and my people and shit, aka Egypt, and all the fucking actors in these Egyptian movies are European, that's meant to speak to the subconscious mind to whitewash, because they know, like, all right, we stole all of our shit from Egypt, but we can't say they're black. Yo, we better not say they're black. If we stole all this shit from Egypt, they need to be white. So for everyone who really thinks that they're black, I mean, you know, just meditate on that more. Chances are you're from this land, and you're really from ancestors that were enslaved, and when they were forced to learn English after being beaten out of their old languages, they learned that they were already being called black, and they had to learn what black was. And now we are in 2020 with Black Lives Matter and all these people of color being so affirmed in knowledge that was given to them to trap them. This is what we're talking about when, you know, looking at other cosmic conversations. Guys, this is going to be about weed, but you know it's only weed connected to the spiritual warfare, because this shit's lit. But
talk about how weed is used as a weapon.
All right, so my man Gavin over here is talking about how weed is in fact used as a weapon. And of course, I mean, everything's a weapon, but yes, thank you, Gavin. Very important. Let's get to that. Because I definitely want to keep this under, I said 30 minutes, I'm going to keep it under 45 for y'all. I know people like the long form media and shit, and I'm kind of in it, because I know almost everyone who is watching this has smoked weed at some point and is going to smoke it again. So as far as, blaze it. So as far as how it's actually serving you in your life though, and how it's being weaponized, when we think about the government and we think about how powerful it is for a spirit to hijack you off of your purpose, right? So this is what we're talking about here with these white supremacist entities taking these Native Americans and forcing them to, you know, civilize. There's just so much. I can't get into that. Fuck. Love history though. So taking all that, right? The whole point of whitewashing things, like I'm talking about, is for these entities to create the world in their image, because they are that narcissistic, and that's the only way they can empathize or relate with it. The whole point. Do you have something to say, guy? Go ahead.
I'd just like to point out the irony. I saw an article the other day just about how, like, in California, how lucky we are to be able to smoke cannabis without much concern. Or still in the country, there are people who could be sent to prison for a lifetime for a dye bag. And how their article is saying how glorious it is to be able to smoke and do yoga. And the very fact that there are still gentlemen in prison with weed that was planted on them for their entire lifetimes. Right. Because of their skin color.
Right. An excuse for slavery.
Exactly.
But, so Gavin just opened up the whole can of worms that we're only going to deal with 3 out of the 100 worms that are currently swarming around my legs right now. And what we're going to do with these worms is just address that everything in the U.S., but specifically this New World Order that you can see written in Latin on the dollar bill, is built on slavery. And when we're talking about the indigenous peoples being enslaved by the Europeans to create this whole system that we're in, and then they're not allowed to live in the system that they are forced to build and forced to think that they're for someone else while they're building it. Like, I really can't harp on how evil and just truly maniacal it is. For then, as society has progressed, now we don't really think slavery is a thing, right? Most people think slavery is done. And instead what they think is that you go to prison because you're a bad person. And this is where just more mental gymnastics, my guys, as far as continuing to propagate slavery under the nose of everybody. And not only that, but have people openly support it without knowing it. That's what the prison industrial system is. Abraham Lincoln, I'm not naming names. There's no point. We don't name names. The Gemini in me really wanted to name names, bro. You observe that shit and you let it go. Because it's not even a personal thing. Multiple people of white descent in general have come to me in conversation and been like, oh yeah, but like Abraham Lincoln, like he freed the slaves. And it's like, yeah, fuck. You were taught that in school. So it's very much not personal. There's no point in me naming names. It's literally part of the system that they're like, okay, we had slavery, but then we had a president and he abolished slavery. You look at the details, devil's in the details, and literally slavery didn't get abolished. It's just now okay if a crime is involved. So instead of black people, indigenous peoples being enslaved, it then became a crime to be black or indigenous. And then since it's a crime to be black or be indigenous, you get to enslave them as punishment for that crime. And society still supports it like they did for centuries of slavery in the first place. So when Gavin's bringing up weed and people of color being thrown in jail, you know, that's, of course, excuses, right? As far as this being the plant that, you know, gets you more in tune with yourself, and the more you're in tune with yourself, the more the government can't control you. They very much need to weaponize the idea of what weed is. So they need to stop people of color, especially, from smoking weed, because they're scared of people of color taking this shit back, because they know they stole it from people of color. They stole it from Atlantis to Samaria to mainly Egypt. Again, pyramid on the dollar bill and just really everything coming from Egypt. And they openly acknowledge that in this society consistently. They're terrified of people of color taking things back. And when we say people of color, I mean people of melanin. That's where like white people have melanin. Like this is beyond race. Of course, like race is a social construct that was created by these entities that do prefer the palest skin possible. As far as, you know, we not going super deep into what that is. We're talking about weed here. But clearly, again, like Gavin is bringing up, we can see that people of color are way more criminalized and punished with slavery for having weed, while white women can literally make money while posting about doing yoga and smoking it on the internet. Right? Like this is like the world, the society that we live in. I'm just telling you the history behind it. I'm just here as a vessel for truth and tell you why things are the way they are and how you can get yourself out of it. But once you figure how to get yourself out of it, it's low-key your responsibility to share that. So that's what I'm here doing, and I get to enjoy myself while I do it. And weed is very much about enjoying yourself, aka having fun, aka tapping into your authentic spirit space. Like, what the fuck? We can see that life isn't fun. And obviously, when I say that, my really spiritual people are going to be like, oh, mine is fun. And that's because you're you and that's lit. But clearly, with the way society has set up life, it's all about, again, slavery, right? But instead of actual slavery, you are enslaved to money. A different kind of green than this green. A green that was created to keep you in a state where you are reliant on the system that creates the need for the system. Like the system itself is creating the problems that only it can solve, aka creating a virus to create a vaccine. And then the vaccine makes you sicker so that they can keep making vaccines and ultimately keep you reliant on a system, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Outlawing weed is very much all about keeping you physically, mentally, and spiritually tied to the system, where now that they're bringing it back in a very specific and controlled way that is actually designed to keep you sedentary. And this is where I'm gonna start talking more about the personals of weed. We're gonna get a little more fun, but like this is everything, guys. What the fuck? This is the warfare. I'm clearly actually supposed to be talking like I don't script these. You know, I just sit down and I'm like, okay, this is the question, this is the idea, here's our topic, and then I just let Aracel get in here. So, like, if this is what Aracel is having Chase talk about, then this is what Aracel is having Chase talk about. It's always going to be tied to the spiritual war, but just know that you loving yourself is the best weapon and the best shield and the best armor you can have, and that's what you're here to learn in this realm of love and light, where you're not supposed to get lost in love and light. I'm really trying not to make this video about love, but we're talking about desires, and we're talking about people chasing the desire for generally light bodies that make them feel good. Weed is a light body that gives a lot of people a lot of different feelings, and they like to chase these things. A lot of people like to act like they're not addicted to weed. They say weed is not addictive. That's a fucking lie. Weed, anything is addictive. Anything that releases dopamine in large amounts is addictive, 100%. So this, a lot of pleasure comes from hitting a bowl, guys. So boom, that's addictive. That's right there. And if you don't actually have like a good relationship with that, it's really easy to get lost in it.
I'm not sure how long ago it stopped.
Why did it stop?
7 minutes ago.
Dang.
Because the video only takes 20-minute videos. I just remembered this.
Oh.
So we've been getting 7 minutes of audio. Hey, we're resuming. So, audio's still going. Cool.
Huh.
Healthy relationship with cannabis.
Right.
Resuming back where we were.
Yeah, wait.
We'll just roll with it.
Okay. But I'm totally wondering if, like, so does that mean the video's done, the audio's going?
Yeah.
So this is just about to be like
7.
a cutout. I put some kind of image here.
Yeah, for
Or
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Yeah, that's all right. But now the video's going, and I'll be matching this back. So we're back.
Wait. I'm going to give that so we have the utmost time to record.
Okay.
3, 2.
All right. So according to Gavin, we're back. This camera does like 20-minute videos or something. So that cut out. I guess the audio's here. Whatever. I didn't invent this technology. Fuck. What was I was talking about weed. I was getting into the negatives. Right. And how weed is used as a weapon. Bro, I'm such a Virgo. I hate that shit. Like, I want to throw this video away now. I'm not going to. Like, this is how it is. But, like, I really don't like it when things don't work out. See, when you're in your spirit, this is how you know you're not in your imagination. This is how I know I'm not in my world. Right? Like, I'm sharing this world. I'm outside of my spirit. My spirit has created a body, and this body has a portion of my spirit inside of it to transverse this world. This is why death isn't real. Now, if you are manipulated into thinking you are this body that you created, it'll be very easy to get trapped in whatever realm has taught you to think that. Because then the moment you die, you'll come back. That'll be the next video. I'll talk about what happens after death. Here, as far as actually getting lost in light, and when I'm talking about getting lost in desires and chasing certain feelings, that's what addiction is. That's where like weed can be addictive, but that's, you know, anything. And weed is not physically addictive. Like, you don't really, at least me personally, don't really get withdrawals or anything. Honestly, going sober is like really clearing, and it's almost like being high again, depending on how long you've been smoking. But then it's just literally comes down to that desire and that habit and that feeling of comfiness. Because what weed does is lowers your vibration. And that's not negative or positive. It's just grounding. And it's simultaneous. It's very cool how weed works. To me, it feels like growing out at both ends like a tree. Where it's like you're simultaneously more grounded, but you're also getting higher. It's just that as you get higher, that high isn't sustainable if you're not growing deep roots into whatever you're positioned on. So with weed, most people, you know, the terminology is you get high. And really, with weed, you get high because for most people, your vibration is so low on a daily basis that the government has weaponized weed just like they've been weaponizing alcohol as a way to make you feel okay with being enslaved in your job, right? Like, that's going to conventions for a lot of my life, interacting with tens of thousands of people, like in all these super awesome costumes all these people are making. The one thing I grew up hearing from virtually everyone I'm partying with at conventions is about how happy they are to be here, because this is literally their time to basically be themselves outside of normal life, which is them being a slave in a system they didn't build, and not only didn't build, isn't even working for them. Like, you go to conventions and it's hella people smoking lots of weed, drinking lots of alcohol, getting super psychedelic, finding themselves for small fractions in time where they had to like ask to call off work, and they had to get all this money to get the hotel room and like set up the whole situation and really execute it just so that they could fully be themselves with other people for 2 to 5 days, when that's supposed to be all of life. Like, in this realm, you're supposed to come in here and be able to express yourself authentically and let everything naturally happen, let all problems happen out of there for the entire time you're in this body. You did not come to this realm to get a social security number and be enslaved to a system that is destroying the world while teaching you that it needs to protect you from the world that it is destroying, and then creating villains that it then creates heroes to again protect you from. This is a spiritual warfare. Weed is awesome. Almost everything negative about weed that you're going to hear is coming from either indoctrination of this system that doesn't want you to get into a different state of consciousness so you can observe yourself from a different space. Because that's all we're talking about with drugs here. That's all we're talking about with any kind of substance, is getting to observe yourself in a new way, getting a new perspective on who you are and how you perceive the world, and then getting to build upon that. Like, my people who trip, whoever you are, like my real trippers out there know that every psychedelic trip builds upon the last. Like, it's also architectural, because you can't go back. You can't go back from that new perspective that you got from, perhaps smoking weed, doing mushrooms, doing acid, doing DMT, doing any other assortment of beautiful natural plant materials that are here to give you access to other realms and other parts of yourself that the entities that are controlling everything through jobs and government and slavery don't want you to have access to, because you would feel no need to work for them if you knew who you were. So weed is really, like with everything, all about your relationship with it, and your relationship with this is really just a reflection of your relationship with yourself. So I'm about to hit this, and I'm going to tell you how you should be using weed. Wait, Gavin, can you make sure we're still rolling?
We are.
Because now my Virgo in me is just like, gotta actually make sure.
We have 10 more minutes. We started at 1:16. It's 1:22, so 14 minutes to be exact.
Weed is not meant to escape your problems.
Tell him.
Yep. Weed is meant to sit with yourself, bro. Life is one long meditation. So when you smoke weed, my question to you is, are you using it to escape from something, or are you using it to, like I'm talking about, get a greater perspective or a new perspective on yourself, on who you are? Because the government, the system, wants you to use it to escape from things. The only reason dispensaries and shit are out now is because it's meant to keep you sedentary enough. This is what being a stoner is about. Because weed grounds you. Weed lowers your vibration. Again, you're a stoner. All right? See the juxtaposition of getting high, but the more you get high, you become labeled a stoner? Why is that? because you're actually getting low. You're not getting high. You're naturally high as fuck. You just get to learn a lot about yourself based on lowering your vibration and grounding yourself in a psychedelic weed type state where, again, it's going to do different things for different people. So that's why anyone who's telling you not to smoke it, they are a demon. And I say they're a demon because, to me, as Thoth, the ultimate value is freedom. Freedom of expression and freedom of communication. And if you inhibit anyone's freedom, you are a demon, the ultimate type of demon. And I come for you. Any spirit that inhibits another spirit's freedom finna catch these hands, they finna catch these feet, and they finna catch these teeth. Big time. That's the whole language of abundance. So you having the freedom to explore who you are with psychedelics is the point of being in a body. Don't let anyone who's also in a body, based on their fear of who they are, right? Maybe like they had a bad trip, they had a bad experience with weed. Don't let their fear of whatever they've got going on that has nothing to do with you stop you from exploring more of yourself. That's a trap. That's a trap. So, the way you're supposed to use weed, right? Love yourself with it. Don't escape from proof that you don't love yourself. You know, like if you're working and living in circumstances that you hate and you're using weed to be okay with those circumstances, then that's rough. And honestly, of course, please look past the word should. You know, I'm not physically forcing you to do anything. I'm just using the English language that I have at this moment to communicate this. You know, you should just listen to your spirit and listen to yourself, but also, of course, listen to how yourself is reflected in the world, right? Like, you probably don't have a problem if one person says something, but if 10 people say something, and if it's a constant theme, sounds like you got a problem, right? So let's extrapolate that to weed. If you're smoking weed and multiple people in your life are telling you that you have a problem, you might have a problem. This is where empathy comes in. This is where the importance of knowing that everyone is an equal and infinite part of source and everyone's perspective is valid is really important to your ascension. Because if you get too wrapped up in your ego, you get too wrapped up in you know what's good for you, that's what these entities are doing. That's what slavery is. That's the justification, rationalization, logical energy in the most toxically masculine extreme, right? Where you can just rationalize anything that you're doing because you just believe so much that it's for the good of whatever. And you ignore what everyone else is saying. Versus, you know, the toxic feminine would be never being yourself and never taking action on your mission because you only listen to what other people are saying. And now you're super lost in the collective consciousness. There are toxic feminine worlds, you know? We're just not experiencing that shit. So here the problem is that it's under hyper control by entities that do not have our best interests at heart. And that very much manifests in making us think negative things about weed through the DARE program especially. And, you know, you can look online and see the history of, like, marijuana and how it's, like, all racist. You know, I don't need to get back into the societal bag again. Just know that your relationship with weed is going to reflect your relationship with yourself. And if you use your relationship with weed to delve into your relationship with yourself, then life is going to be pretty beautiful from then on out.